Good morning and welcome. My name is Nenad Filipovic and I'll be the host of our today's webinar, a short one on the MBA program at IDC Bled School of Management. I'm very happy to be joined with two of our alumni, Ms. Aleksandra Bošković from Montenegro and Mr. Jure Peternel, Miss with a beard, Mr. Jure Peternel from Slovenia. I'll introduce them properly a little bit later when we will have an opportunity to chat with them. And of course, also my colleague Mojca Richter, who is head of our sales office, and will tell us a little bit more later in the process about the admission process and be the contact for people who would like to apply. So to start with, usual questions, and when it comes to webinar, if you would like to ask any questions, if you like to chat with us, use the Q&A at the bottom of the screen or use the chat at the bottom of the screen. I will take about 20 minutes of the introduction. We'll then have a chat with Aleksandra and Jure for another 20 minutes or so. And towards the end, we'll ask you a few questions, a small survey, and I'll give the floor to Mojca to walk you through the process of admission to the program. I will use a short presentation. I'll use a couple of slides. You will be able to access them later if you are interested, but I don't think it's really critical. Still, we are used to these things, and let me share the slides. I hope you will be able to see them. So the Executive MBA at IDC Bled School of Management, as I already mentioned, a few of us who will be together with you, and this is intended schedule roughly about 1 hour and a few minutes. Okay. So the first question, why to join the MBA at all? And if going to an MBA, why going to Bled? And my first consideration is not all the MBAs are the same. There are several groups of people in our program, and they tend even to decide differently about the format of the program. Not all of them in the same way, but still, I'll mention it a little bit later. I would say that most of the people coming in would like to get ready for the new challenges ahead within their professional career, leadership and management career. So people who expect that they have to be good leaders of their companies, either working at the very top of the company or having responsibility for part of the business in business or functional professional terms. Why to Bled? Well, I have an anecdote from some years ago. I talked to a CEO of one of the largest companies in Southeast Europe, and I asked him, when you hire people with the MBA degree, how do you think about it? And he said, well, you know, if I want a person who is very, very qualified in working with spreadsheets and can go into the detailed financial calculations or something like that, I hire from the universities. I hire from the MBAs, people who go to the universities or to go to some other business schools. But if I want to hire somebody who will be able to lead a business, I hire from Bled. And I think that's a fair statement. Our MBA tends to be a life changer, both in terms of personal development and in terms of professional development. What we like to do, and what is definitely not easy at all, is to impact the attitudes, not just the knowledge. Knowledge is a byproduct of learning, but more of it to impact skills and primarily impact attitudes of people, to make them reconsider how they interact with the business world around them, with their colleagues at work, with what's the purpose of their business, and help them become better leaders. Of course, in order to do that, we have to have innovative thinking, which reflects both in curricula and in the learning process itself. And then, of course, as another byproduct of learning at Bled, one gets a network for life, gets friendships which last over over time, both with their MBA colleagues, of course, but also with the professors and the staff of the school. Who are our students? We don't call them students, by the way. We tend to call them participants because somehow they are not so young to be called students. On average, around 10 years of business experience, a lot of them coming from outside of Slovenia, but as you can see, a solid majority coming internationally. In every class, we would have 10, 15 different countries. And that may get a little bit affected with, unfortunately, with Corona for the immediate future, but we still hope to keep solid representation beyond just Southeast Europe. Most of the people who come into the school already have not just work experience, but managerial experience. And what is even more important for us, they have life experience. As you can see, they're not the youngest, which means we deal with people who can share with each other, learn from each other, not only from ourselves. If you look at the average composition of a class with 10 years average experience and with, let's say, 50 people sitting in a class, that means 500 years of business experience. And that's a lot to learn from. I personally have more than 40, but that's significantly smaller. So one of the important elements of our program is its interactivity. It's its ability to stimulate people to interact, to exchange opinions, experiences, and therefore learn from each other. When we look at the formats, and that is always a challenge with busy people, and in times of crisis even more so, we have decided to have 3 different formats. And as I already mentioned, we have segments of participants. The one-year format, which is very compressed, very compact, it's 17 weeks within 1 calendar year. We start in February, we end in early December. It's 4 modules of different duration, 5, 4, and 3 weeks. And as I said, it's quite intense. The good side of it is that in between the modules, there is significantly less burden. There is some work on the projects, but not much other activities. So people come to Bled, spend intense couple of weeks here, and then go home, go back to work. And one-year program is mostly selected either by entrepreneurs, people who run their own companies and would like to beef up their skills as fast as possible. They suffer, of course, in that year, and it's challenging how to leave the company for so much time if you're an entrepreneur, but many of them consider it worth. Or we also see people who change careers, who would like to step out of their regular job, get ready for another type of work. Many of them professionals who want to become managers, or companies sending people who need a very fast preparation for a new responsibility within the company that comes soon. The 2-year format is the biggest one, if I may say so, in terms of participation. And it's spread over 2 years. It's 7 modules, so it's 2 or 3 weeks in a module, a little bit more in between. And then these are majority of the corporate participants who go for that one. It is still very compact. It's still very intense. People work in teams, but it is a little bit spread over time. The 3-year format is an individual one. It's for participants who claim more maturity, who also typically hold more responsible positions in the company, and who cannot go away for more than just a week or 2, and even that only occasionally. So they spread the 17 weeks content over a 3-year period. Mind you, in our program, we also have or had CEOs of fairly large companies from here in the region, and for them it would be impossible to join otherwise. As said, the curriculum is innovative, but at the same time, it has to cover things which we normally would expect within the MBA. On the one hand side, functional courses. We get people with very different backgrounds also. Quite a few of them are not having any economic or functional insight into the areas of finance, for example, or marketing. So we, first of all, have to bring everybody to the same level of understanding of these basic functions. Okay. Now, on the other hand side, not the middle column, but the other gray one, what we call strategic and integrative courses. The functional knowledge is not meant to be serving you as experts in that particular function. So when we teach finance, of course, we teach finance in the way general managers should know about finance. So look at the company from the top and understanding of the language and ability to ask the right questions towards the experts in particular functional areas. And that is why this integrative view is so important. And it combines two elements of it. One is the business element, strategy, looking at integrating business processes and so on. And the other is the leadership, the people side. Now, obviously, business ethics comes in between. We do discuss the role of business in society and the ethical leadership, which is one of the primary things in our school. When we are asked, and often we are, what distinguishes our school as a place of learning and development, apart from being innovative, apart from being able to change lives of people, we say that it is our ability to bring in topics which are important for the society. We talk about responsible leadership, we talk about creative leadership, and the whole area of being able to influence other people in a positive way is of particular importance for us. And then for people who, for all the participants, but people who have different preferences of some nuances, we have a number of electives which participants can take during the program. I said it's an innovative way of learning, and one can easily imagine if you just get exposed to another set of lectures, a long and boring presentation like the one I'm just now giving you, it's not likely, it's informative for sure, but it's not likely really to change the life. Sometimes an insight from a particularly well-designed lecture with very, very new content can be intriguing, but the personal development and learning, we think, comes from different set of activities. So it's only partially presentations which give input for people to have a framework of thinking. But then a lot of participative activities, a lot of experience-based learning. I'll give you an example of experience-based learning. Twice in the program, we have what we call an end of module exercise. And end of module exercise is a team exercise, team assignment, where teams of 6, 7, 8 people, I would say typically 6 or 7 people, get a tough case, a demanding case, business case, a real business case, and they have to act as if they were the managers of that company and come back to the faculty, to us, to the professors, within 36 hours with a solution, with what would they do, or would they be the managers of that company. And that's a very, very intense work because it's a demanding case which typically covers a lot of different dimensions, asks for a lot of analysis, but primarily asks for excellent teamwork, and often creates frustrations, often creates some, I would say, challenging personal experiences. Did I do as much as I wanted? Was I a good contributor to my team? How did I handle a conflict in the team which appeared, and so on? And at the end, we also reflect on that experience, and we help people understand how they operate under such difficult conditions, and what can they do in the future to be better under challenge. So this is an example. There are others, including more role-playing, including what we find very, very important, what you see down there as integrative consultancy project, where we don't bring real life to the classroom, but we bring classroom to the real life. We go to the companies, our corporate partners, every year, and for a number of them, this year we have 5 different projects. 6 actually, in the region. By the way, that creates a bit of a challenge because we have to do a lot of work online rather than visiting in person. And we help these companies resolve a major strategic challenge which they face. For example, for one of the biggest banks in the region this year, we are looking at how they can change their online customer experience and use it as a vehicle for growth for the bank. So very much real life and quite demanding topics. As a result, well, many things happen. On the one hand side, people tend to move up. They tend to get promoted. Not all of them, and by the way, some of them are already CEOs of their companies. Alexandra is an example. So what else she can be to be bigger title? But also, I would say, expanding the network, okay? Having the feeling that personally things are accomplished, and also that there is better preparedness for challenges in life. We are regional. We do get people beyond the region. So what is the region for us goes to the north. We occasionally have people from Scandinavia, almost always from Germany and Austria, very much so from Ukraine and Russia. Southeast Europe would still be a good 2/3 of the class. We bring, however, faculty from all over the world. A lot of our faculty comes from best schools from North America, United States and Canada, in particular Canada, and some also from European schools, including Spain and UK. So, and by the way, all of our faculty have more than just academic experience. They are all very experienced, not only working with executives in the classroom, but also serving as advisors, board members, and so on. So having a real-life business experience. This real-life focus, the whole curriculum is aimed to be used. We take it as a compliment when people tell us what we learned today in the classroom we can use tomorrow in our business. That's the whole purpose, of course. We are formally accredited, but at the same time, we don't think paper is the most important outcome of the learning process. So we look for inspiration, we look for ability to move people, to make them willing to do something better in the days coming after the program. And of course, we think that the alumni network, and by the way, we have a number of clubs. I always forget the exact number. I think we have 12 different clubs in different countries, including a club in Africa, covering the whole African continent. So this is again a valuable asset for future business. Oh, I see here 15. Okay. By the way, the fact that we had 75 countries in our programs, alumni coming from them, only last year in various programs of the school in 2019, we had people from 50 different countries. So it's not that we get once and never again. We are consistently very, very international. And the alumni club is more than 5,000 people, which really is a vast network one can look at. Let me now stop sharing the slides and talk a little bit with Alexandra and Jure. But as said, as you can see on the slide, Alexandra, coming from Montenegro, CEO of Build Studio, a software company, and Jure, head of demand planning and inventory management. Oh, actually, I don't know, Jure, is it still your title?
Close enough, yeah.
Yeah, good. So we are up to date. At Studio Moderna, one of the leading multi-channel retailers, not only in this region, but I think Studio Moderna is the leading multi-channel retailer in 20 countries also. So thank you very much, both of you, for being with us. I know, Alexander, that your baby may cry somewhere in between, so we will not be disturbed. That happens.
No, I got rid of the baby. You know, you just have to set your priorities straight. So when I'm on webinar, baby goes out of the house. Yeah. He's with his dad now. He's safe. He's safe.
Now that I have introduced you, let me ask you a few questions, if you don't mind. And maybe to start with, Alexandra, you came from a smaller country and a smaller company. Yeah. And very often people ask us, does it make sense to go for an MBA if I'm running a small, I mean, small can be 100, but small is not thousands of people, a small company in a small country, does it make sense to go for an MBA? What would you say?
Well, for me, it was, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be part of this webinar, and hi to every participant out there. Well, you know, it was a strange thing. For me personally, I wanted to go to MBA because I wanted to learn more, to gain more business skills and in the areas that I found that I don't know enough. And I'm a CEO of the company. So, I mean, finance and strategy, those are all the things that I really wanted to learn more about. But that makes sense, definitely. I mean, I'm a CEO of a company that has 70 plus people, and we are gaining more and more employees every month, every year. We'll see what will happen after this Corona is over at some point. And I think that this kind of program is essential for all the people who are at C-level positions or who are in a managerial position, because you really have to understand what you're doing and you have to question yourself, can you do more and can you improve your business? And this type of program, to my very big content, really answered to all the things that I wish for, you know, to gain more knowledge, to examine myself as a leader, to see what I can improve within myself as a leader and within the company that I'm leading or managing. So it was a great experience, and I think it's essential for everyone who are either at a managerial position or want to be at the C-level position at some point in the future.
Thank you. And if I may ask you, Jure, when you joined, of course, one could not foresee Corona coming and some other challenges, but also knowing a little bit more about your company, one could probably in those times not foresee the amount of changes the company is going through right now. How did MBA make you better prepared for these kind of things, these big unexpected things coming?
I mean, managing the change was definitely one of the things that you learn in the MBA. I mean, in these 2 years, things change a lot, not only how you do your daily work, because all of a sudden you are a couple of weeks out. And it's not 1 time per year, it's 4 times per year. So how do you manage your team? How do you manage the leadership part? How do you manage the work? The day-to-day business really affects it. And then the next big change is after you return from the MBA, because all of a sudden you have all of this knowledge, which is really broad. And now you start thinking how to use it, and then the challenges come. So you have the idea, but to make it alive, it's a process. And then the third challenge, which was specific to this year, is the Corona, and it's the basically overnight move of how you do business. And managing this kind of change, really, actually the skills that you got during the MBA really helped at least me to actually go through it, and actually company came out very, very strong. in this period. So this is the result, the most important one.
Yeah, I moved a significant amount of business online incredibly fast.
Yeah, overnight, a company with 400 stores basically closed all of the stores. So something that brought huge amount of revenue now had to be switched somewhere, and to adjust the business in such a rapid pace, it required really a lot of change.
Alexandra, you are leading a significant amount of people. I mean, for me, the challenge of being a CEO of a company of your size is always you don't have many people in between you and everybody else. So you almost have 70 direct reports. I mean, they see you, they know you, you have to influence them. And you had to go through this shock of Corona. How did you as a leader react to it? What?
I mean, it was a shocking experience, of course, for everyone. And one would think that you're in a software company and you do everything online. So it would be just easy, you know, just to continue your life even with Corona. But it's not that wasn't the fact. I mean, a lot of our clients got scared because they were losing their revenues, and they started to, you know, just letting go of some resources that they hired already, or some contracts were canceled. So it was like a lot of questions at a very, very short period of time. And one of the things that we do learn in Bled is how to deal with crisis. I mean, I remember from one of your lectures when you said, like, crisis is the time when we have to learn fast, and we have to, you know, crisis is not always a bad thing. So for my company, although we are a software company, remote work was something that we never really considered as something that can be a permanent thing for our employees, and it had become in less than 5 days. So people really, you know, it was a kind of a struggle, but then they just, I don't know, they went home, sat at their computers, and the business went, you know, just kept on going. So it was a challenging thing on one thing, but it really helped us to explore new opportunities, you know, to go to some markets that we would never go before, to, I don't know, to question our sales channels, because, you know, you couldn't be on the field anymore. So you have to do everything online. And so it was really, it's still very challenging because Corona is still out there. Our clients are still mostly in Western Europe, and, you know, but the countries are slowly opening. And I think that one of the things that really Corona brought to us is that a lot of companies realize they have to go online regardless of Corona. And they found that they're very vulnerable to this kind of situations. So they're willing to invest into online platforms and so on in the near future. So for us, is really, this period is like a prep period for what will happen in the next few years. So it was challenging. It was quite tough at the very beginning, but now people are slowly coming back to the offices. Our clients are slowly returning to us with more demand and so on and so on. But it really opened a huge amount of opportunities for us to question the way we do our business, you know, and the way we work. So remote work will probably stay as an option for all employees for their great content at the very end of the day.
Thanks. You're joining MBA. I guess a lot of interesting things happened during the program. Anything that you recall as something that you didn't expect, but then was really interesting and contributing to your learning?
Let me say I was talking with previous participants of MBA, so I had some idea about the curriculum and what I will learn. But I think for me, the biggest surprise, or let's say the nicest thing, was the people. So, you know, maybe you're not thinking that far ahead when you're applying, but you're thinking about the knowledge you will get. But sooner or later, you figure out that knowledge in classroom is one thing, then knowledge outside the classroom, in study groups, in doing the projects, that's a completely different thing. So the school does a great job of mixing all the people in the group, which means that you get to spend a significant time with each of the participants in your program. And that was the biggest surprise for me. You become colleagues, friends, good friends, actually. We still keep in touch now, which is, let's say, half a year after we finished. And we we plan to do so in the future. So even if you have a business challenge, a personal challenge, there is always someone you can contact. And that's, let's say, something that you cannot put nominal value on it or any type of numerical.
Yeah, thanks. And the other side of the coin, Alexandra, what did you find as most challenging in the MBA?
Oh, well, you know, before MBA, I thought that having all the control is a good thing. You know, like, okay, I have my teammates, but I really have to micromanage because I have to make sure that everything is okay. And then I had to go away for first 3 weeks and then another 3 weeks. And it was kind of, you know, it was shocking for me. And it was kind of shocking for my team because I was there every day responding to every request, to every problem that they had. And for me, the most challenging part was just, you know, to focus on the studies, because you really have to focus. The studies are quite intense and they do require your primarily focused on the lectures and the study work and so on and so on. So it was challenging for me just, you know, to have full trust in my team that they know what they're doing. And so it was a good experience for me to have, like, to let go, to know that it's okay, that everything is going to be okay at the very end of the day, because I didn't disappear from the earth. I can still respond some emails in the night, or I can respond a phone call during the breaks. And it was a good thing for my team because they really depended on themselves. And I think all in all, we all learned something from this whole experience. And the good thing also and challenging thing was, like, you're working with completely unknown people in the MBA. You have to rely on them that they will do the work. And it was a relieving thing to see that you can work with so many unknown people who are great at what they're doing, and you learn from them constantly. And you know, and you don't have to micromanage. You just have to manage yourself, your stress, and you have to believe in the process. And I really enjoyed the whole experience. And you kicked me out of my comfort zone, and that was challenging, but it was a great experience, really.
And if I may, I hope I'm not getting too personal, but there's one similarity between you and my wife. You both delivered babies during the program. And it's interesting you didn't mention that as the biggest challenge.
Oh, well, you know, I would, but the thing is, I really had a massive support from my colleagues at MBA and from the faculty staff, and even from my colleagues at work. You know, I expected some support from my family, of course, from my husband. I expected support from the colleagues from the work, but I never thought that I would have such a big understanding of people that I'm studying with, and from my teachers. And you made the whole process really, you know, I was freaking out, but I was freaking out, like, quietly in myself, and everything went fine. I mean, I delivered the baby in October, and I still made it to the graduation in December. And I mean, challenge came afterwards. Like, when I finished all of that, I had to just stay at home, focus on my baby, love my baby. Yes. You know, but I mean, it's the biggest change in my life, but challenging, it was not as much due to the immense support that I had from all of you guys and from my team members that I worked with together on a project. And I have to mention this, that you and me, we were in the same group, and there were like 7 of us, and 5 of us had babies during the second year of the MBA. So it was, you know, like that. Yuda became dad for the first time, and my colleague, she had like 2 babies during that time. So it was crazy, but we were a really supportive group, and we still managed to pull it off, you know, like the project and everything else.
And Alexandra mentioned this pleasant side of the teamwork and working on the projects, working on the exams together. But I can imagine it is occasionally also challenging, especially for people who are high achievers, who are extremely bright like you are. So how did you handle the frustrations of the people don't follow my advice. I have the smartest idea that they don't want to listen, because it's a lot of bright people in the program. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And all of the participants are, let's say, used of having their way in their business life. So when you put 6 people or 7 people in a group like that, of course, some tensions might occur. From our experience, what you learn is that being stubborn won't help. So I think we all figured out that the best way to achieve something in an efficient way and with the best outcome is by argumentation. So whatever you want to put on the table, you have to have arguments behind to justify why you believe so. Because if you were just saying, I want this, I want this, I want this, it never came to a good conclusion. That's one thing. And second thing, actually, if you compare the first group work that you do in the beginning of the school, beginning of the program, and towards the end when you work on the project, it's completely different process in the group. You become much more structured. You know what you will do by steps, and the structure that school provides, the guidelines, how you should approach the problem, actually resolves majority of the challenges, because it guides you through. And the third thing is you kind of figure out roles in the classroom. So you have people who are very analytical and will spend hours trying to crunch the numbers. You have people who are very good with structure, so they will set up the presentation, how this should look like. You have very creative people who work on the content, and the longer you are in the program, it's the easier it gets, because you start to know the people and you start splitting the roles according to their best knowledge. And this is a very good learning for the period after the school. So you, in your teams, you start recognizing patterns. I see how he thinks. I think I will direct the guy or girl in that direction. So this is the class, the group work probably is the closest thing you get then to managing the team once you return from school. And this is a very good learning experience.
Thanks. Alexandra, I guess some of the people listening to us at the moment are still hesitant about should I join now? Maybe I should wait for more quiet times before I join. What would be your advice?
I mean, okay, these are some. I mean, Corona really disturbed the whole world. So these are not normal times. Like, this is the new normal. That's what they say. So if this is the new normal, things will not settle down in the company. There will always be emerging questions, emerging issues, and there will always be a lot of stress. So it's like with a baby. Like, if you want to plan when you want to have a baby, there's no perfect time. I'm sorry about the analogy, but I'm a mother, now. And so there's never a perfect time to go for MBA and to disappear, quote unquote, on 3 weeks for doing the studies. So if you feel that you're ready, if you feel that this is a good time in your life, in your career, to learn some new things, to gain new experience, and as I said many times, this is a life-changing experience. And I think that as soon as you jump, the better it is, because you have more years in front of you to enjoy everything that you learn and people that you met, and so on and so on. So if I would go back 3 years and ask myself then, is this the perfect time to go to MBA? It would be definitely a no, but it turns out it was the best time, because now I can really enjoy being on maternity leave and knowing that I really did accomplish some things in my life, and that I'm looking forward to go back to work and implement more things that I learned and that I think that needs improving. So waiting for the perfect time for things to settle down at work, it's never going to work. If you are already thinking about something, I think the time is good. Anytime you decide to go, it's a great time. So I think that 2020 it was a good year to stay at home and contemplate, and 2021 is really a good thing just to change something and go for some life-changing experience. So go to blood.
Thank you. And very last question for you, Jure. you are part of a larger company, and in larger companies, sometimes you can decide by yourself, but often it's an interaction between you, your bosses, the HR. What would be your message to corporate people who have to persuade their company that it makes sense that they go?
I think, you know, big companies think in return on investment kind of thing. So I think before coming, you should realize what you want to achieve and to know how to articulate this clearly. So it's not just I want to go party for 2 years. But you really want to have clear goals, what you want to achieve, and the vision of yourself in 5 years. So then, with this in mind, talking with corporate heads, it becomes easy because they see that you're in for the long run. You see that you want to bring value for yourself and for the company. And I think with these two things, majority of companies will really recognize that the investment that they're paying in your education, the return on it will probably one of the best investments they can make. And of course, talking with other companies who send students regularly would help because they're doing it for a reason, and they have, at least our company who is sending it from basically the beginning, is doing this every year just because it really pays out at the end for the company and for the students enrolling.
Thank you very much. Thank you both. I'm still, struggling with Zoom because I'm looking at the camera at the moment. But when I want to look at Alexander, I have to look down, and when I want to look at you, I have to look here. But actually, I should look at the camera all the time. So thank you both very much for joining us. It was really a pleasure to have you again, and I hope I will be able to see you in person soon again. Before passing the word to Mojca to walk us a little bit through the process of admission and possibly answer questions about that, I would like to ask people who are with us if, of course, they want to share with us just 3 very simple questions. Okay? The first question is, do you consider enrolling into the MBA now? Now means that you start the studies into 2021. And for us, that's an interesting thing because, as said, never best time until you jump into the water. I know what my parents told me. We're always afraid of cold water until you start swimming. Actually, I was swimming in the sea a couple of days ago. It was quite cold, but incredibly refreshing and enjoyable once you're in. So, okay. So, some yes, some no, some maybe, which is good. If I take it from the positive side, there are yes and maybes are much more than no. So that's fine. Let me ask you the second question. Okay. Who would sponsor you? The company? Yourself? Or possibly looking for the scholarship? Mojca, will you say a few words about the scholarship later?
Yes, I will.
Good. So I want it. So let me ask you that. So who will sponsor you? Company, yourself, or you may be looking for the scholarship? Okay. Again, interesting. This shows a little bit what I see on the screen shows a little bit what my assumption about people watching this webinar would be, and this is that people who watch the webinar typically are people who push by themselves rather than people who work it together with their companies. So we have actually more people self-financed than people who will be sponsored by their company. And my last question, well, I'll wait with my last question until the very end of the program, of the broadcast, because it's about whether it was useful or not. And I will first pass the word to Mojca. Moisa, should I restart the slides?
Yes, please, if it's possible.
Of course.
Yes. So we can go to the last 3 slides.
Yes, I'll just in a second. Here we go.
Yes, thank you. So let me give you information about our admission requirements for executive MBA study at our school. So we expect that a potential participant has a minimum of 3 years of meaningful work experience. Then we expect proficiency in written and spoken English. So knowledge of English language is verified at the interview. And of course, we expect a participant to have a completed bachelor degree. Further admission process is done in 5 steps. So first you need to submit an online application to us. You will find this online application on our webpage under Executive MBA program. As soon as we receive it, we will contact you and send you the information on further steps together with forums for recommendation letter, which you need to actually provide to us. So as I said, together with 2 recommendation letters, you will need to send us also a copy of your diploma. If it's not done in Slovenia, then we will ask you for an official translation of your diploma, and then also your personal photo. Next step, as soon as we will receive all the documents required, we will schedule an admission interview with one of our professors. So a few days later, the admission committee will make a final decision and we will let you know if you're accepted. So for those that are looking for a scholarship support, you have a great chance to enroll in individual case study. Actually, you have another 2 days to enroll. We are collecting applications until July 3rd. So you will get then a case study, which you will have to solve individually within 48 hours. So then you will send it back to us. And in case if you are one of the first 3, you will also have to present then your solution, and then we will definitely provide you a scholarship for the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place in individual case study. We also have scholarships which are usually given to our alumni clubs, which means that alumni club has then an opportunity to select and to propose a good candidate. Usually these scholarships are in amount of 25% of the total tuition-free fee, or let's say the second scholarship would be around 10 to 15% of the total tuition free. So I hope those that are looking for a scholarship will join us soon in our individual case study in the following days. If not, anyway, I am looking forward to meet you in person at Bled. And if you have some questions, meanwhile, please contact us. You will find my contact number, my email on the webpage. I will be more than happy to answer to all your questions. Meanwhile, if you already have questions now, I'm also happy to answer your questions.
By the way, one thing which I didn't say up to now, and might be a question actually, I would be surprised if you don't consider it, is did we adjust our program to the current situation? And the answer is yes, of course. We, as you heard, we have a modular program. So when the Corona situation developed, COVID-19 situation developed, we were just coming very close to the end of our March module, which was good news. So we only lost 2 days at the very end of that module. We sent all the participants safely home. Nobody got ill, by the way, which is always good to hear. And then for the main module, we decided to apply a mixed approach. So we postponed one session on finance, for which a lot of people felt that they are not experts and that they would really benefit from face-to-face work and explanations. And we then had 2 weeks online. The postponed session is just going on right now. It's at this very moment down in the amphitheater with, of course, safe distance. In the class, people are not wearing masks because we have safe distance. On the corridors, they have to wear masks. This is the current rule. Not everybody, unfortunately, could be with us. People from what we tend to call red countries these days, unfortunately, the countries that are seen as too active sources of infection, were not allowed to come to Slovenia without quarantine, and it wouldn't make sense to come for 14 days before the program to be able to come to the program face-to-face. So they had the option either to again delay it for next year, and few of them decided to do so, or to have it online, and few of them decided to have it online. So as you can see, full flexibility. Of course, all of us would love not to have such a situation, but even though we have it, we were extremely flexible, trying to find the best possible solution for everybody. I only wanted to have a small comment. Moisa, you said 3 years of meaningful work experience. In our thinking, there are two, and I often get that question, that's why I'm answering it up front. In our experience, this comes from 2 reasons. One is by European accreditation standards, MBA is a post-experience degree. So people have to have business experience in order to be able to enroll. Simply, we are not even allowed to enroll people without business experience. But on the other hand side, we have not only a feeling, we have developed this over years, a good sense that some life experience and some business experience is required to get the full benefit from the program. If people would join without any real life business experience, it would again be too abstract for them. Talking about situations in the class, about business situations, about business challenges would just be like reading from the book. By the way, our youngest ever participant, I still remember him. I will not, for personal confidentiality reasons, I will not mention his name. Well, I can say his first name. It was Victor. Victor came from Ukraine, and he was 23 years old, and he had 4 years of business experience, and he was running a company with 200 people. And even though he had such great references, brilliant guy, smart like hell, and obviously already accomplished, being so young was a bit of a challenging thing from pure life perspective. So we prefer to keep this as a kind of a starting point where people come into the program really to benefit from it. Now I got a question for myself, and then one from Moisa about the projects, and the question whether the real life business came out of projects, so whether the projects we do for companies resulted in actual business changes or new business developments. The answer is absolutely yes. we quite often have a situation where the companies start applying the learning from the project even before we end the project. And sometimes things don't develop the way we think they should. I remember a project where I met 6 months after the end of the project. I met the CEO. I asked her, did you use what we suggested you in the project? And the project was about closing one of their factories or not closing that particular factory. And she said, oh, yes, yes, absolutely. I said, oh, so you closed that factory, but I didn't read it in the newspapers that you closed it. And she said, oh, no, no, no. Actually, you did recommend us to close the factory, but you know, you didn't know everything. We knew more private data than you did. But you gave us such a wonderful logic structure of thinking that we used your structure of thinking, put in our data, and came with a good conclusion. So sometimes it's obvious, people can see it happening immediately or soon after. Sometimes it's in between the lines. But the fact that we have roughly about 1/3 of the projects done as repeat projects for companies who already had projects with us before tells that they're quite happy, and they are definitely very much real life. By the way, Jure, Alexandra, your project experience, challenging, but...
Yeah, it's very challenging. I mean, we were struggling with the company, with the management, with the tasks, with the complexity of the company, which was something that none of us had any idea with, but that's what made it fun. Yeah, it was a good experience after all. I think useful for the company. That was, I hope, the outcome.
Absolutely. They were quite happy, actually. Maybe they didn't say it so clearly, but they were quite happy.
No, I mean, that's one of the things that you expect, you know, like after you did work for a company, you expect them like to be happy, like after the first presentation. And what happened after the first presentation, when we said like, these are the challenges that you have in the company, they were not happy. They were quite angry. And by the time that we ended the project, I think that they realized that they do face a problem, and we gave them an outside insight about their company, and at the very end they were happy with the results. But you know, it was a challenge for them. You know, it's not always easy to have like somebody from the outside telling you how you should do your business, and that's a challenge. I mean, the whole point of the project, and we were warned about that at the very beginning, is not about you know, you being happy. It's about client being happy and getting something from the project. So it's a process, and at the very end we were all very, I don't know, happy with the result. And I think that we all learned a lot about even the client company relations and so on and so on.
Thank you. And by the way, yes, not in case of the two of you, but we quite often have companies coming after somebody in the team with a job offer. So that also shows they are usually happy. Moisa, we have two questions of the same kind. I don't know whether you saw them.
Yes, I see them. I can even read them. So for the others as well. So as for the admission, could you please define what classifies as meaningful work experience? So for us, it's important that you understand business logic, that you have, you know, if possible, managerial experience. So because you need to participate, as you heard, you know, in project work, in discussions, in case studies, and you really need to have these basics. Because we have other programs as well. So if you don't have, you know, this meaningful experience, then we usually recommend some of our other programs that we run at our school as well. So I will go to the second question, which is more or less the same. So about experience again, could you tell me if managing a public educational institution is meaningful enough? Because public schools sometimes aren't considered as the real business life. Yes, it's enough. definitely, of course, we still have to have 3 years, as we mentioned already, but definitely enough. Okay, I see. Next question. If I have no prior knowledge of a course, can I still follow the course? How deep will the course go? Yes, of course, you can still follow it. For example, finance. We have many participants that did not study economy. They studied a technical, let's say, area like, I don't know, mechanical engineers, electro engineers, and they still are able to follow, you know, like accounting, finance, marketing. It's more challenging, but no problem to follow the courses, of course not.
By the way, I still recall a phrase when I was very young, as a young faculty member at the university, before I went to business and then came back from business into the business school. One of my professors once laughingly said, you know, don't ever forget, if people fail the exam, that only showed that you didn't do good enough job. So the job of our faculty is to help people without prior business experience in that particular area, finance or some maybe leadership. Some have been great professional experts for a number of years, but now go into a leadership job and they don't have much leadership experience, or they think they don't. We all have leadership experience in life, from our private life, if not from professional. So our professors do, I think, a great job at helping people to go through. But it's not just professors. I know that it's quite normal that people who are more knowledgeable of finance among participants, or of marketing or particular area, help their colleagues with explanations, with the coursework also after the classes. So that happens.
Nina, we have one more question.
Yes,
yes, I will just go ahead and read it. How do students who choose the one-year program feel about the course arrangements? Is it too intensive since there is only 1 day free between 2 different courses in one module? Yes, as we said already before, the one-year format, it's very intensive. We recommend it, let's say, for those participants that would like to change a career. So they take a year off and they very intensively put all the efforts, you know, to their study. It's really hard to do both, so study and work, but we still from time to time have participants who decide for one-year format and do both. But again, it's very rare, and we do recommend a 2-year format.
Now, let me just again comment this. It is intense. Again, the fact that you do it jointly helps, because somebody gets slow with the energy and then somebody helps a little bit. There is a lot of intense work, but there is also some socializing. So going for a coffee or a drink happens after the class. Not everybody goes immediately on the mail to the company. But I think the sense that what is done in the class is meaningful, that it's not abstract content which has to be learned by heart and then reproduced just for the sake of getting the paper. I think that helps. I think, and please again, Yuri and Alexandra, feel free to join with a comment. I think although it is very intense, it is not unreasonable. It can be done.
Well, I mean, even at the 2-year format, you have only like 1 day between the courses, 1 day off. So it's just, even in our generation, we have people who are still working and going to 1-year format, and those are who those people who are, I don't know, trying to change their career. We had even a colleague who went for 2 years and then switched to 1 year format. So is it intense? Yes, it's quite intense, but I think that if you're considering 1 year format, one of the things that the people who were enrolled at 1 year format liked is the fact that you really meet 2 generations. So the one that you started with, and then the generation that is going 2 year, but like from the previous year. So you like meet 2 different generation of people, and so your network is quite broad, and that's what they really enjoyed. I mean, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, it's, I don't know, it's quite challenging, of course, but it's still manageable. I've seen people do it, and they were quite tired, but we were all tired, you know. I mean, of course, there's a lot of intensity, there's a lot of studying, but we had some great time as well. I mean, we went to coffee and drinks quite often, and and Bled is beautiful, so you're not stuck at school all day. I mean, even if you're in the amphitheater, you see the lake, the sun, the rain even, but it's still beautiful. I mean, you're stuck at a very, very beautiful place with one of the greatest people I've met, teachers and students. So it's doable, it's manageable, and it's just a question whether you can commit to 17 weeks in one year. That's all.
We have a minute or two for addressing 1 or 2 more questions. I see already exam preparation. Well, exams mixed. Some of them are done during the module. In other words, for example, of the finance, 1 day free preparation for the exam, and then the exam. For the marketing exam immediately after the end of the last day of the course. Intense, but again, doable. We don't have a huge number of people failing. It happens occasionally, but it's not, it's clearly doable. Okay? And then the other kind of exams are the essay exams, where typically people get a question. I mean, we give the question to the participants: how would you apply the learning from this course to your job? What would you do in terms of strategy, or what would you do in terms of improving operations? And which makes it impossible for copy pasting. So we don't have problems with collusion on that one. But it again requires a bit of reflection, and then you participants get typically 2 to 3 weeks to write this essay and send it back to us. So I would say doable. Materials, some pre-readings, not much. We have support materials, occasionally a book, for example, for accounting, online tutorial also for accounting, which I think helps for people who have really no prior understanding to go through it. But we know people are very busy, and we don't want to burden them too much with mandatory reading before the course, because it just wouldn't happen. We try to do as much as possible during the module, during the course, and it's intense, but it proves to be sufficient. Thank you all. I think we are approaching the time limit for our webinar, and I would like to thank all the people who are joining us as participants in the webinar, and in particular, I would like to thank again Alexandra, Jure, Mojca, and let me just ask the last question: was this useful? And I hope we will get some yes. Wow. Okay, 100% people said yes. That's good news. So thank you. See you again, hopefully soon. And for those of you participating, hope to see you in February in Bled.